If you're a SaaS founder and you're starting this company and you're growing this company, at some point in time, one of you, whether you have two co-founders or more, or maybe you're a solo founder, you're gonna have to make that decision on, all right, I'm gonna call myself CEO. And I personally had to go through this decision myself on when do I call myself CEO and when do I just be the founder? What does the company need? And so in growing my last company, ToutApp, I went through this journey of being a solo founder to building a team, to being a CEO, to selling the company. And I went through some tough changes along the way. So in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles. And I'm gonna do this video a little bit differently. I haven't scripted this. I just wanted to speak from the heart because it's a topic really important to me. And I think a lot of founders struggle with this. So I'm just gonna go through my notes that I made one by one. So I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles and the 3 stages that you're gonna go through on turning from founder to CEO. So if you're excited to dig in, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're new, I drop an episode like this every Sunday with actionable strategies from the trenches on building SaaS companies. So hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. And let's dig into it. Intro. Okay, so the first stage of building a company, this is the super early stages. One of the things that I didn't learn this the hard way, I just kind of felt it from the beginning and it proved true to me, was I didn't call myself CEO. One of the rules I had was like, look, when it's like just me, I was a solo founder, or when it's just a 4-person team or 7-person team, there's nothing to chiefly execute over. Like there's no CEO. You're basically a founder. And if you have co-founders, you're a bunch of co-founders. And what you need to be focusing on is not so much the title, but really what needs to be done. So the first principle is that don't call yourself a CEO until you have something to chiefly execute over. And this served me well because I would just introduce myself as a founder. When I was recruiting, I would just introduce myself as a founder. This proved really well for recruiting great early employees. And I heard this from early employees and talking with them over the years, we're still friends, that it meant a lot that you were in there in the trenches. You weren't this like person that was CEO and you weren't in it with us, especially in such an early stage in such an early team. Even on my business card, I just put founder. And even now in all the companies that I run, I just put myself as founder. They're not big enough in these new stages to chiefly execute over anything. And so the reason this is important is because I felt that, and as I've met other founders, I've met founders that are like, just them or they're just their co-founders and they're like fighting over you're CEO and I'm CTO and this and that. I get it, to incorporate in Delaware, you need to actually put down some decisions, but don't put it on your business card. Don't put it on your email signature, because in that early stage, what's really important is that you own that role of just being a founder, which means that you are doing sales and you're doing marketing and you're doing product and you're doing code and you're talking to investors and you're talking to customers and you're customer support. And that's it. And that's like, you just need to be owning that. And I think that as much as people say titles don't matter, titles do matter. That's why people fight over them. That's why it's top of mind. That's why people check them. They check the length of them and if they have certain names in it. They do matter. And I think as a founder, the biggest principle that served me well, this is principle number 0, is just like be a founder. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the title in the early stages. That's principle 0. Principle 1, the next principle, and I have it in my notes here, is when you go from just you guys or gals being co-founders and founders to you have something and you start to hire some people. And in this stage, let's just say maybe you hire a demand gen person and you hire a support person and you hire a salesperson. It's super important to also not, again, call yourself CEO. And this manifests itself in multiple ways, because I got the urge to do it and I'm like, nope, not gonna do that. What I'm gonna call myself, I call myself Chief Happiness Officer. That's literally what it said in my email title. And I put that because we hired a bunch of happiness officers. They were responsible for onboarding our people. We were product-led growth in the beginning. And then we moved to sales-driven. And even in those early stages, everyone was called a happiness officer. So I'm like, okay, I'm the Chief Happiness Officer. And the reason I did that was because there does come a point, let's just say you start selling into bigger companies and you are, recruiting some like little bit more experienced people. They want to know that there's someone owning the responsibility for where this company is going. Or if there's 3 co-founders, they want to know who's the single person that's the single throat to choke. And so even in that stage, when I was hiring more doers, but not managers or leads or anything like that, I stepped up to the role like, look, someone's got to manage these people and lead these people, and someone's got to be the face of the company. So I will be Chief Happiness Officer, but still not CEO. And that was also important because the reality was, in that stage, while I was managing people, I was still responsible for a number of things in the company. If I didn't show up to work for a week, then a bunch of code wouldn't get written or certain deals wouldn't get closed. Like I was still doing. And this is something that Paul Graham calls the maker and manager schedule. And this is one of the toughest parts of being a founder, because in this stage, what's essentially happening is you are trying to follow a schedule where you're managing a bunch of people and you're also trying to do work. And the context switching between the two can be super hard. Like if you're coding and all of a sudden your happiness officer actually needs help on a support ticket or production goes down, it's really hard to switch out of that. That context switching is really hard. And so I gave myself another name. I said Chief Happiness Officer and Founder. And I would have days where I'd just be a founder and do what was needed to actually follow that maker schedule. And then I would have other days where I would put on the hat and say, cool, I'm gonna be Chief Happiness Officer. Let me make sure that all the support tickets are getting handled, all the customers or people in the pipeline we're actually talking to. And in those cases, showing up as, hey, I'm the Chief Happiness Officer, it got like a little bit of a reaction. They're like, okay, I'm talking to someone important. Also, it wasn't like I'm CEO. It's like, what are you doing on this call? How small are you guys? So it kind of helped level set that middle stage where it's a little awkward, where maybe it's you and your co-founders and like 3 or 4 people that you started to hire. And so principle number 1, or if 0 and then 1, well, I keep index cards, but I wanted to do it slightly differently and just speak from the heart, was, just give yourself a different name that means something to you. Maybe that's Chief Sales Officer or Chief Revenue Officer, or maybe it's Sales Director, or maybe it's Chief Bottle Washer. I don't know, but it's partly for the team and your customers to show that, hey, there's a different role, but partly also to remind you that you're wearing 2 hats in this stage. There's the manager schedule and the maker schedule, and that will likely help you really manage your time in the right way. One of the biggest pitfalls I see in this stage is I've seen founders, and this is obviously something really near and dear to my heart, mainly because I've seen so many founders struggle on this, is one of the first things they want to give away the hat on and say, oh, we hired a marketing person. I don't need to think about go-to-market anymore. Or we hired a salesperson. They're going to take care of all the deals. That's one of the biggest mistakes you can make in this second stage, where you're starting to hire some people, but there's no clear leader to own sales or marketing or product. You're still the Chief Product Officer. You are still the Chief Sales Officer. You are still the VP of Sales or the VP of Marketing. You're still that because you haven't hired for that. But you may be hiring some junior people or some mid-level people, nothing against them. And I know some of you watch this as well. You would want your founder to own this piece and recognize that. And by the way, there is a title for that. Someone that owns those functions, because there's no VPs for it yet. It's called Founder. Like that's literally what it is, which is why you still want to hold on to that and make that your primary title. And so that's really the big thing you want to think about, because what is the right stage where you're just purely founder because nothing to chiefly execute over? And then what is the stage where you're managing and making and you're wearing multiple hats? And how do you give yourself a title for when you're managing, and how do you give yourself a title for when you're still doing? And it's not CEO still, because there's nothing to chiefly execute over. So once you get through those 2 stages, then you get into this 3rd stage. And this is probably the stage I struggled with the most in shifting, for a non-obvious reason that only after selling the company and looking back and having drinks with prior people that we had on the team, I really understood. I'll tell you what that is in a second, but let me describe this 3rd stage. The 3rd stage is, you start with just co-founders, and you get the product, you get some initial revenue. Then you hire some people and you get some leverage, and you're doing the maker and manager schedule, Chief Happiness Officer. Then you get into a stage, maybe you raise a Series A or a C+ round, and you start to hire some leaders in the company. Maybe you hire a director of marketing to really own a piece, or a VP of marketing. Maybe you hire a VP of sales. Those are really the 2 big roles you want to prioritize before you hire for anything else, in my opinion. And we can debate that in the comments. But once you do that, then you start to actually take a pile of work and say, awesome, you are now in charge of this. This is a whole new stage where you're really shifting from doing to managing. And more importantly, you are really shifting to leading. And this is where, while there's always going to be a role for the founder, this is where CEO is really important, because every person in the leadership team, someone that's owning a function, is going to have to be managed, coached, and guided by the CEO. And it's got to be one person that really owns it and gets dangerous enough in it to be able to manage that person. Now, this doesn't mean that you should be as good of a VP of marketing person as your VP of marketing. It means that you have to be dangerous enough at it to be able to know whether they're doing good or bad. And you should also have enough or lack of an ego to hire someone that's better than you. You want to be hiring VPs and directors that are better than you. You actually want that because they'll up-level you. But you also want to have some domain knowledge in their function so you can actually manage them. And that in itself becomes a full-time job. And in this stage where you finally start calling yourself CEO, you really transition from founder to CEO, there's two big pitfalls that I learned the hard way. And I see a lot of founders struggle with this, and so I don't want you to as you go through this. The first pitfall is where you have so much of an ego that you actually want to remain the best in the company at that role. So let's just say, you are the founder that also closes deals, or you're the founder that also manages product. And you're like, you know what? No one can do what I do. And you almost limit yourself in hiring someone better than you, not because you can't recruit that person or that person doesn't exist. You just don't believe someone better can be out there because you think you're so great. And in fact, this is why it's so important for you to switch from founder to CEO, because while you were a founder, your job was to be really great at a bunch of different things, and that's what you are rewarded for. But when you switch to CEO, your job is to be great at one thing, and that's to recruit and lead the best people that are better than you. And unless you come to terms with the fact that you're no longer going to be the smartest person in the company for that discipline, whether it's marketing or sales or product or engineering, you will falter and you will hire people that are worse than you, and then they will fail, and then you will fail. And so this is why in this third stage is finally the time where you really want to own being CEO, because this is where it matters the most. In the prior stages, it's a distraction. In this stage, it is the thing that it'll make or break the company. And so in this third stage, you will actually want to proudly put CEO on the business card. You will probably want to put it in your LinkedIn profile. You can change it. You can say, I was founder for this many years and I was CEO for this. You can change it all later once you sell the company or exit or grow it or IPO or whatever. But in that stage, it's super important for you. This is really more for you to mentally know, okay, I'm now the manager. And part of this is it is your duty as CEO to make sure that you don't own any of the doing. Given constraints around funding and runway and all of that, you still want to figure out ways where, how do I make sure there's a leader for the key functions that's appropriate for the stage of the company we're in? Because when you still hold on to a piece of it and you don't hire a great leader to own it, if you still do it as CEO, it means it's not going to get done very well. It's just not. Not compared to you hiring a great VP of marketing or VP of sales or VP of product or whatever it may be. So the first caveat in this third stage, when you finally put on the CEO hat, is recognizing that your job is to be the leader, not the best in the company in any of these disciplines. So that's one of the things that I learned the hard way, and that I think it's really ego that gets in the way, that stops you from hiring the best, and you want to put yourself in check on that. Related to that, the other thing that I learned, and this one sneaks up on even the greatest founders. The second thing, the caveat in this stage, is that there's always a sacred cow. And what I mean by that, a sacred cow is this one thing that you won't let anyone touch, and you won't realize it. And this is a realization that I only got much later. I think that we hired a VP of product way too late in the game. We should have done it earlier. And I always thought man, why am I holding on to product? And in my way, I had a little bit of an ego, I can create the best product. And I thought that at the time, and we still hired a VP of product eventually. Looking back, this is how much of a blind spot this becomes. Looking back, turns out my sacred cow was marketing. I never hired a great VP of marketing, literally zero. I hired 2 VPs of sales, I had a VP of engineering, I had a VP of product, I had a VP of ops, all of it. Never hired a VP of marketing. And only later, looking back, that I realized, oh my God, that was my sacred cow. All this time I thought it was engineering. I'm an engineer first. I thought it was product, but I gave those away really quickly because I was so fixed on I'm not gonna let go of the sacred cow, I'm not gonna let go of the sacred cow. And I let go of those thinking I was letting go of the sacred cow, when in reality, it was the VP of marketing. I loved marketing, I loved go-to-market, which is obvious now, but I never hired one. And not that I don't believe I'm the best at go-to-market. I think I have a lot of experience in it that allows me to help founders at this stage. I don't believe that we couldn't have recruited a great VP of marketing. It was my sacred cow. Without realizing it, I kept holding on to it. And did it hurt us? Absolutely. Not because I was bad at marketing, not because I couldn't recruit someone, but because it was a sacred cow and I didn't let go of it. And I was doing that plus all these other things, which was being CEO. And that held us back versus just getting someone that's better than me to own it. And that's the biggest thing about this stage. And this is why in stage 1, when it's just you guys, be the founder. In the stage 2, be the founder and the chief happiness officer. In stage 3, own being CEO and let go of the functions. and hire people better than you. It sounds obvious, but the reason I want to do this video is because in that, you're gonna face your own demons. You're gonna face your demons on, oh, I'm not gonna be the smartest person in doing this anymore. Like, how do I feel about that? You need to ask yourself that. You're gonna face your own demons on, there's certain sacred cows where, you think that there's no one else in the world that can do it better than you. Guess what? There is. And so that's why it requires your full attention. And I think that if you are disciplined about being founder, and then founder and chief happiness officer, or whatever you want to call it, and then you take on CEO, you will recognize the difference in what is called upon you to take your company to the next level in a whole different way. You will recognize that your job now is to lead and recruit people better than you to own these functions. And that is what your job is going to be. And that is what CEOs do, not any of the other stuff. So this is why I wanted to do this video, because I think it's really near and dear to my heart. And I hope it's okay. I did it in a slightly different format. If you got value from this video, if it's like speaking to you, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. I also drop an episode like this every single Sunday. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. And also, I run a SaaS go-to-market coaching program. I know that in each of these stages, the journey of a founder is very lonely. And you end up owning go-to-market through all these stages, even when you hire that great VP of sales. But you particularly own it when you are that founder in that middle stage. Maybe you raise a seed round, and now you have to really figure out how to drive that revenue growth so you can raise that Series A or get to that next stage if you're bootstrapped, and then be able to afford those really great VPs that are better than you. So this is why I run my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. If you want to learn more about it and you want to work with me based on my 15 years of experience, just go to tkkader.com/GTM. And also, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this different format, I want to just switch it up. It's my channel, so I guess I get to do it, and hopefully you like it. I do this so that I can serve you guys, but I also do it because this is how I hone in on my craft. And this is how I feed my soul, to share these lessons learned with you for free so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did. So if you got value, smash that like button. Put in the comments below, what's your sacred cow? What stage are you in? I'd love to hear from you. I respond to every single one of the comments. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you in the next episode or inside the go-to-market program. Take care.